SM Mac10, whatever you want to call me, and this is being streamed live, so there probably won't be any special, like, well-edited VODs coming out of this. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be going over the Game 5 between Virtus Pro and OG from the recent major. This sounds a little bit too loud, so I'm going to go ahead and turn this down. Bear with me for just a moment. So I didn't actually announce that I was streaming this, I just figured I would, like, since I'm doing the analysis anyway. Let's get up to the end of the draft, just so I can look over everything. Okay, so first thing I want to emphasize with this draft is that Virtus Pro, just in general as a team, after watching... Oh, gotta go back just a hair. So they last pick OD. The bans just got wiped. So Naga, Terrorblade, Enigma, Slark. Something I want to point out here is, and for whatever reason it's bugging out, but they banned Slark fourth pick, which was kind of surprising to me, because Virtus Pro has the best ward game of, like, any team I've ever seen in my life. Like, the way Virtus Pro was warding in every match of this series was incredible. It was mind-blowing. It was so well done. A little bit surprised that OG banned Ursa. The IO and the Darkseer are obviously pretty appropriate picks, given the teams. Terrorblade, I mean, well, the previous map, Virtus Pro just got spanked by OG's Terrorblade No-Tail, so that was kind of an obvious ban, and the Naga Siren kind of fits into the same thing as Terrorblade. These are things that Virtus Pro plays that ward game. They like to play aggressively. They don't like to be in a situation where they're going to win because they let the clock go too long, and they know the way that OG can play that way, so they ban the appropriate heroes. OG also went, I believe they had first pick and went for the Trent Protector, even though they probably wanted the Warlock, and just gave the Warlock away because they didn't want to have Trent Protector +1 pick on the enemy team, because then you can pick something that combos really well with his ultimate, and then you're in a lot of trouble. So I think that's like the biggest part of the draft, like the most logical thing. The Dazzle also makes it so everyone on Virtus Pro is going to be weak to physical damage because of the weave, so that's something else that they can sort of set up for later on. And Dazzle also makes it so Legion Commander's ultimate is not nearly as good, because suddenly, even though LC will probably end up getting a lot of these specific kills, Legion Commander can't get the kill because of the Shallow Grave coming out of the Dazzle. The Timbersaw here was probably the pick that I was most confused about. It doesn't really do, like, it cuts through the Warlock really easily, and it cuts through the Enchantress creeps once you get some farm on Timbersaw, but he's not that great against Alchemist, because Alchemist has all that regen, especially, like, as the game progresses, which is usually, like, the mid-game when Timbersaw starts to get, like, scary. That's when Alchemist typically has, you know, he's going to have at least 1 point in his ultimate, and he's also going to have his armlet, so he's going to be really hard to cut down with the burst damage of the Timbersaw. The Troll Warlord makes sense here because it's a pick that, first of all, Virtus Pro is probably not expecting a Troll pick here. Second, Troll has really, really high physical damage, which is really good against everyone on their team because they have Dazzle's Weave. Another thing is that Troll Warlord is kind of one of those heroes that can't quite reach the cookie jar, kind of like Ursa is, and Trent Protector helps a lot with that. The slow from Dazzle helps a lot with that. The slow from Centaur helps a lot with that. Every single hero on their team has some way of slowing you down and getting the Troll in range of hitting you. And then Troll is kind of similar to an Ursa, where once he gets his hands on you, if he gets that bash, you're done. Centaur is also a very strong pick here, you know, given that we're just looking at these heroes, because Centaur has the ultimate that allows him to escape from the Warlock ulti, and Centaur is also, he puts out a lot of damage with his return. He's a good, solid, tanky hero. He's an axe that grants much more global utility around the map. So I'm going to scoot up a little bit farther. Something I want to point out before the match begins is that the Virtus Pro lineup is better than OG's in almost every way, in my opinion, and I think in the opinion of the people that were commentating this game. The Centaur War Runner. Okay, the OD is selected even though I click Centaur. Okay, so the Alchemist is a good scaling carry. And everyone on Virtus Pro's team scales really well. OG's team scales okay. Timbersaw doesn't, like, Timbersaw is good at all points of the game, but he doesn't have too many power spikes. He's almost like an Abaddon, where he's not going to be super scary in the late game, and like an Abaddon, he's actually going to drop off slightly in the late game. Centaur, similar position when it comes to what he can do with farm, what he can do with experience. Trent Protector obviously scales really well with farm, despite the fact that he's a support. And then Troll Warlord is your carry, so you need to get farm on him. And then Dazzle, not a great scaling support for farm. Every single hero on Virtus Pro's lineup can do a shitload with farm. They experience massive power spikes with farm. Alchemist is the fastest farming hero in Dota. OD is your hard carry and your mid in this situation. Legion Commander gets better as the game goes on, assuming she wins her duels, and she's a right-click centric hero. You get Hurricane Pike, Aghanim Scepter, all these different items that make your Enchantress a better hero, and then your Warlock is... It's not the greediest support in the game. The greediest support in the game is actually Shadow Shaman for a zillion reasons, but Warlock is a great support because Warlock is pretty relevant without farm, and Warlock becomes ridiculously more relevant with farm, maybe even more so than Trent. Like, Trent gets that global presence with his Ags, but if you have an Ags and a Refresher on Warlock, then you have two, like, essentially two Ravages that do way more damage, and then do even more damage because you have the 4 Golems running around afterwards and the Fatal Bonds. Virtus Pro's team scales way, way better, and Virtus Pro is a team that likes to win the early game, and I was just talking about how they always ward, and they always play aggressively, so you know that they're going to be trying, like, you have a team that is okay at all parts of the game, but extraordinarily good in the late game, being played by a team that's going to try to win that early game anyway, because that's how the team plays. So just looking at the draft, like, I'm an OG fan. I like Virtus Pro. I'm not an anti-fan of theirs. I watch them a lot, but I am way more of an OG fan than I am a Virtus Pro fan. And I thought that Virtus Pro was absolutely going to get slaughtered here. And I tend to be biased in my assessments. I tend to be biased in favoring those that I want to win. And I thought that Virtus Pro was just going to stomp them here. So I'm going to slow that back down to 1, and then there are a handful of fights I'm looking for. So XP graph is in OG's favor, but the gold graph is in VP's. And I think the gold graph does a much better job of telling the story here. Let's go ahead and look at net worth. So OD kind of comfortably sits near the top of the net worth, and I was just talking about how Alchemist, being a VP Alchemist, doesn't want to farm as much as he wants to fight. He only has a single value point in Greeble's Greed early on. And it's not that great of a value point, because it basically is just for giving him more money out of the bounties. So he will, of course, get more points in Greeble's Greed, and he will, of course, try to scale off, because this game does go fairly late. But they build for this early game, and they start winning this early game. And again, we're at 10 minutes right now, and the XP graph slightly favors OG, but that money graph is pushing 4,000 in the favor of OG, and 4,000 is a very, very large lead for 10 minutes. In fact, 90% of the time, if you have more than I think it's 2,000 gold lead in professional games, I'm not sure if the statistic still applies, but I knew this was the fact as of 2 years ago. In all professional games, 90% of the time, if you had a gold lead of over 2,000 by 10 minutes, you had a 90% chance of winning. So, again, not really including Bayesian priors in here, but, yeah. So, we're looking at 2 to 4, and the kills, again, kills don't tell the story of this game at all, but OG loses the early game pretty consistently. I think the safe lane is the only lane where OG does okay, and they have a timber saw, which, you know, great hero to scale with farm, but it's not a... Are my portraits all frozen? No, my portraits aren't frozen. But it's not like if you had like a seriously hard carry in the safe lane. I mean, they have basically a solo safe lane Timber here. Also, Timber gets he gets force staffed by the OD upon the initiation, and I think that was actually a mistake from the OD, because in doing so, the Timber Saw took less damage, and if the Timber Saw died like a half second earlier, then the LC would have got the dual damage. This LC actually gets almost no dual damage the entire game, despite the fact that they were winning and getting a lot of kills throughout the entire game, because the Dazzle was just there so much with that Shallow Grave. Also, Jerax, he didn't max out Living Armor until I think level 8, but it was still enough to keep these outer towers up. So I'm gonna skip around a little bit. I'm not gonna walk through the entire game because I feel like most people watching this will have already seen it. We're at 15 minutes now, and this tower is at nearly full health, and this tower is over half health. I'm not gonna rewind and go over this, but this tower was pushed and then healed back to full so many times throughout the course of this game. Like, the amount of damage that this tower ended up taking over the course of the game was absurd. Also, the Alchemist, kind of noteworthy, went for a Solar Crest before he got Armlet. So the Alchemist is pretty freaking tanky. He has 16 armor. Is that just... Yeah, that's 16 armor. That's not a tower buff. He has 16 freaking armor. And he also has, what is it, 25? 25% evasion. And now he's got an Armlet too, so he has even more ridiculous stats. When this comes off cooldown, that's another 5 armor and another 7 HP regen when he doesn't have the Armlet activated. So he's just ridiculously strong at this point in the game. Like, you cannot kill this dude. They don't have an AA, they don't have anything that's specifically designed to kill this guy. No Tail's gonna do a bunch of damage to him, but, like, he can't kill him. Like, he's just going to get destroyed by the damage from this OD. Then Ana comes in. Ana got almost entirely killed just by that ulti. But he does... I believe he actually narrowly escapes here. Yeah, he narrowly escapes there up until the stun. But he almost lived just because of the Shallow Grave. So I think this point at 17 minutes in was the point where I, as an OG fan, was starting to go, yeah, this is definitely, like, done. 2 to 10 with a gold graph dipping towards 6,000 at 17 minutes. And now that experience graph for OG has completely turned around. This was actually the fight that I was looking for that really took the slight, like, low-medium lead that VP had and made this a consistent, undeniable, oh shit, that's actually a significant lead, like a very bad lead. And this leads into a lot of fights this game that are super, super close. And a lot of people on VP live, and a lot of people on OG die, and the people on VP that live by just a very small amount of health because they had more health, and OG did less damage than if there were a little bit of farm or a little bit of levels shifted in the other way around. Because VP has this advantage from these early fights, when these team fights actually do break out, VP narrowly and consistently wins these team fights just because of that small advantage. If they didn't have the advantage from winning the early game pretty freaking hard, VP would not have consistently won these team fights. Okay, so this is actually what I was referring to earlier with VP does this, like, big push on the tower, like, multiple times, and then it just gets healed up by the level 4 living armor. So the Trent Protector is level 8, and he does max this out, and it's honestly a super solid decision because that tower lives for so freaking long when it's not supposed to. Like, it really should be dead. And OG, like, this is a great example of why you should never give up in a game of Dota, because OG's lineup doesn't scale into the late game as well as Virtus Pro's does. Like, not even close. Every single hero on the Virtus Pro lineup gets so much with additional money or additional experience or both in a lot of cases. And OG starts playing this weird rat game. I'm going to turn this up to ×2. Let's watch the English camera. So OG starts playing this weird rat game where they just take whatever they can and just start picking off towers. Like, OG is fighting for every little inch this entire game. Like, they do not give up. Like, a lot of times you can see as the team morale starts to break down, it almost seems like a team is trying less. And you don't see, again, this tower is back to full health again. But you don't see OG giving up. And you see them doing these weird trades and these weird little rat plays all across the map, despite not really having a lineup that's good for it. The only person they have that's really good at hitting buildings is the Troll. That's kind of an advantage that they have against VP, where they have a few people that can hit buildings pretty hard. So like Alchemist is pretty good at hitting buildings, and Enchant is good at pushing because she has creeps, and LC is good at hitting buildings, but these aren't the one position, and you can see just based on the net worth chart, your OD is going to be... Oh, hold on a second. Your OD is going to be pretty high in the net worth, and OD absolutely sucks at hitting buildings. So I'm actually just going to slow this down and continue, because I didn't want to go over like the details of the fight. What I want to do is just point out... he died because he denied himself, and the extra damage actually killed someone else. So in this fight, everyone on VP was pretty low at one point, and you can see these guys are kind of back to full quickly, but they had a heal from the Warlock, they had the regen from the ulti on the Alchemist, and then of course she gets Nature's Attendant. So let's go back just a few seconds. Scoot up towards the fight. Scoot up towards the fight. Okay, so just look at the health bars on the Dire team. OD bought back. Okay. So yeah, look at the health bar on that Warlock. Look at the health bar of that hero. Like, so OD actually did die, and the OD died. This guy was down to like sub 100 health. LC was also down to like sub 100 health. The Enchantress I don't think actually got that low, because they weren't focusing the Enchantress because she has her Untouchable on, and so you need to have your BKB turned on if you're going to hit an Untouchable Enchantress, or else you just don't do any damage. But everyone on Radiant died, and they were in full retreat, and while they were in retreat, they were at low health, and a lot of them got picked off running away at low health, and their TPs weren't cancelled, they just died because they took enough damage. If there had been a couple of levels or a couple thousand gold farm thrown to OG in this fight, this could have been a completely different story, because OD did die. And with the slightest bit of health, the slightest bit of farm, your LC and your Warlock dies too. And if that happens, then several more people on OG don't die. This is what I was talking about a few minutes ago when I said the advantage that VP gets in the early game translates into these fights that look like a stomp actually being narrow victories that VP takes because they have that golden experience advantage from the early game. Hello, Muhammad Payne. Just doing some analysis. So let's go on and keep watching. I'm going to... So the gold graph now... I'm going to skip up a couple minutes. The gold graph is now pretty grim for OG. We're at 7,500 gold. That is a huge lead for 23 minutes. That's stomp territory. At this point in time, the kills are telling the story of the game. And the experience graph is almost identical to the... This was the lead that OG had throughout the entire early game in experience, and this is... I mean, it's a grim time for OG. So I'm going to go to the English camera, turn this up to times 16, it's a little bit fast. Let's go up to times 2. I'm mostly interested in the swings here and how OG comes back and wins this game, spoiler alert. Okay, so VP is actually playing very carefully here. Okay, this is actually a really, really cool play. So I'm going to turn this up to 1.5. So VP, 5 man's up on this tower, and VP's logic is, OG's not going to give us this tower because as long as they don't give us the tower outright, they will heal it because they have a Trent. So VP has realized, based on that that tug and that push and pull that happened over here at the tier 1 mid, they want to get this tower dead, or they don't want to hurt it at all, otherwise it doesn't make a difference. So they fortify, they use the tree heal on it, and they delay him. And while they're doing this, 3 heroes on the side of OG grab this tower and then move up to try to do damage to this tower, all the while this is going on. And because of this sort of conservative outlook that VP took, they're all gathered around here and they can't defend this rat. Rat Dota is usually something that happens when you're behind a little bit or on equal terms and are trying to slip in a quick advantage. This is OG getting stomped beyond belief, and because they have a Trent, VP doesn't want to do anything but take the whole tower, and so VP commits 5 heroes there and ends up... That's a dead tower. That's a dead tower. Like, this tower is toast. Like, they don't have anything that can heal towers. And just other kind of little side note, while they're doing this, VP is poised to take a set of racks here. They have set up both of these wards, which means that if they go for the push, they can't be flanked. They can't be ambushed. There's no wraparound. They're pushing in, and the only defense that can come without them knowing it is over here, and OG has no freaking clue that these wards are here. Another thing, so Solo has no TP throwing. No one's TPing up here, which means that you have 4 people on VP over here, 1 person down here without a TP, and they're all just trying to deal with this split push. OG's already realized, like, this is a ratting situation. OG's dipping. They are leaving the area. And while this is going on, S4 says... Wait, there's 4 people here and Warlock is the only one missing? So S4 applies more pressure to this tower. So this is not going to go that well for the Dazzle. And I believe No-Tail actually does get killed here as well. And No-Tail gets killed. That's a decent chunk of gold because No-Tail is he's pretty valuable, but... The Dazzle's kind of worthless. The only, like, Dazzle is, like, you kill him to get him out of the game. He's not really a money pinata. Meanwhile, S4 took that whole tower, and the creeps have damaged this tower down to 62 health. This is a dead tower. I'm really glad that we're stuck on the zoomed out mode, because I really like looking at that. And S4 blinks up here. This was actually a bad play on the part of both teams. S4 should have left earlier. He should have known that if you were getting picked off down here, that you should stop being cute, stop trying to get chip damage, didn't get a single point of chip damage. You should stop being cute, stop trying to get chip damage, and just leave. And there was a slight misplay from OD using the ulti here, but I think this was more of a no one got unlucky, Centaur S4 got lucky, and he just missed the ultimate, because really Centaur should be dead. And Centaur is worth... a decent bit more than No-Tail. That's a pretty significant bounty, and you don't want that going to OD, who's already more farm than anyone on your team except for your troll. Also, I could just mention that the troll had a Quelling Blade coming to him in a courier at the start of the game, and that courier was sniped by the... I believe it was the Enchantress wrapped around, sniped off the courier, so there was no Quelling Blade, so the lasting power on that troll was drastically reduced during the early portions of the game. Basically everything that could go wrong in the early game for OG happened. Everything that went right for VP could, except for, of course, the dual damage because of the Dazzle. Again, I really want to emphasize that I really believe that VP played well. VP did not play badly, and I think VP had the stronger draft. I think OG, with a lesser draft, just outplayed the living shit out of VP. There is no reason why VP should lose to this draft if they're playing on equivalent level. And I think VP was winning very well. VP got a lot of lucky, cutesy, cheeky things off that translated into a serious difference in the early and mid portions of this game. So That gold graph is bouncing around just a little bit because even though VP got those kills and got this tower, this is full. This is close to full. This is dead. This is full, but this essentially doesn't exist. You can't count that as a tower when you can break through backdoor protection on a support. So you have one outer tower if you're on VP, and you have two if you're on OG, despite being at a 3 to 16 kill disadvantage, over a 5,000 gold difference, and almost a 5,000 gold experience difference against a team that carries harder than you and just generally is a more core-centric team, like a team that scales better into the late game. So there's no freaking reason why, like, VP is still in a dominating position, but VP is now at a tower disadvantage. And they're not playing against a Lycan or a Nature's or an Enigma or a crazy pusher. They're just getting out-ratted. I will do some live streaming. I just had my final midterm, but I've got to do some stuff for my thesis, and I've got to grade some papers this week. So next week will probably be when I'm back doing this full-time. This week is black screen? What? Is my screen... I'm looking at my stream. It looks like everything's fine. Is there anyone else having difficulty seeing the stream? Okay, so... right now, again, I want to point this out, and this is like... I really like this, and this is a place I feel really comfortable talking about because it's how I like to play Dota and how I like to get my teammates to play Dota. So, like, VP is going to get a tower, and VP's committing so much because if there's a fight, VP wants to take it 5 on, we don't give a shit how many. Because 5 versus 5, VP wins. 5 versus 4, VP has the better team fight, they have the more farm cores, they have the stronger everything in straight up engagements, and OG doesn't really have a rat team. So Jerax is down here for some fucking reason, trying to keep this tower alive, and you have 5 heroes pushing. Again, VP's dropping this aggressive ward. VP's setting up for a fight. VP wants that push, and they want the fight. OG knows what this graph looks like. OG knows what the hero pools look like. OG knows what is going on. They have much better awareness to how they have to play this map than VP does. VP's being really safe because they're like, taking these fights and forcing these pushes is the safest thing we can do, and we don't need to pull back. We can let them do whatever they want. It's a little bit of overconfidence from them, but it's mostly them just playing super safe. It's good play, but it's not super good play. Versus now they're starting to teleport heroes back, and VP is fucking afraid. VP is nervous here because they're pulling back an Enchantress, they're pulling back the Alchemist. I mean, Warlock should be running away to grab a TP, but Enchantress has a TP, and this guy... Does he really not have a TP? Okay, so Alchemist doesn't have a TP, so that's kind of a big deal. But they don't know where any of these heroes are, but based on this ward, unless all of them are huddled up over here, you know they can't be there. And you just saw at least a couple heroes up here. You know that the Troll is up here, who is by far and away your most dangerous competitor. VP should realize that by backing away from this tower right now, they're saying, fuck it, we're going to let them heal this tower to full, and then we'll have to do this whole push over again because they have the Trent. So VP, like, they didn't know this, but they should have made the educated guess to go, if we leave the Enchantress and the Alchemist, or at least just the Alchemist here, we should be able to tear this tower down. Because OG can't do anything about it without TPing a bunch of people back. And they actually... TP management was actually pretty bad all around this game, I think. The only people that can go back are Troll. Okay, Troll has a TP, but it would take him 6 seconds. So the only instant TPs they have are the Dazzle and the Centaur Warrunner and the Treant. Unless they're willing to blow all of their cooldowns, that being a 100-second cooldown and the most dangerous cooldown that they probably have on OG, the fucking Alchemist is gonna be fine. I think even with these three here, I think even with the Centaur and the Dazzle and the Trent, you don't kill the Alchemist. And I think even burning all those cooldowns and all those ultimates, which really is that's a huge commitment. Even burning all 3 of those, the 6-second cooldown plus the 5 seconds it'll take him to TP because 2 other people would have TP'd, so his cooldown timer his TP timer will be longer. The Alchemist still escapes with his awesome ultimate, which is level 3, and his armlet. So, and his evasion and his ridiculous amount of armor. He doesn't die. The Alchemist could have just stayed here and killed the tower. Alchemist is like, I gotta come back and defend my base. Everyone's leaving. Okay, I gotta go soon. Sorry, I've been waiting to meet up with a couple of friends after the exam. I turned my phone on Do Not Disturb, so I'd have to voluntarily check it so I wouldn't be disturbed. So, that play right there is the archetypal example of how OG wins this game. They pull VP apart and make VP really uncomfortable. VP likes 5-manning. VP likes group pushing. VP likes team fighting and carrying and farming. VP does not feel comfortable with the split push game that's going on. Another thing is VP is much more risk averse in this game, while OG is way less risk averse. And even if you're OG, you should be kind of risk averse, because even though OG's way behind, they've shown through these past couple engagements that they can still win. Also, I think he got pretty lucky here. If you had half a second longer, he gets off the shallow grave, and then you don't kill the Dazzle, and you get nothing out of this massive commitment. Again, this was another moment where I felt like it was going to be the death of OG, because they did what VP wanted them to. OG is making... I wouldn't say they're making big mistakes, but they're feeling more comfortable engaging than they should, and they're more comfortable taking risks because they're like, well, we're behind. If you're behind, you take risks. If you're ahead, you don't. And OG is taking these risks because, again, they feel behind, but they have a good plan. The way that they're pulling them apart on the map is a good plan. I'm going to turn this up to 16. We didn't miss anything there. I'm actually going to rewind just a smidgen. So, you have the full 5-man of VP over here. They know that Roche is not up. I don't know if OG actually knows Roche is not up. So S4 goes on to the Warlock. And that's actually kind of a huge kill. Just because of Fatal Bonds. But he doesn't have the ultimate, so... like, they're not fighting around the rock. But what this does is this gives OG... This is the turning point in the entire game. OG goes on Roche, not because they're sure they can win, but OG goes on Roche because someone is dead on VP, so this is the best chance we're going to get. So we're going on Roche no matter what, because unless they fuck up and we somehow get a second kill, there's no way that we're going to get a better opportunity to get a meaningful advantage over the enemy team. So this is where I think so the Hurricane Pike range and like awesome like attack speed is on no one. But the thing that I really feel like was the big fuck up from VP here was that they pussyfooted around the Roche pit the entire time. And once OG got the Aegis, they made the jump. And sometimes that's like an okay decision to make because you're taking more damage. You're taking damage while you're fighting Roche. So if you're taking damage while you're fighting Roche, then you have a weakened team coming out of the Roche pit to fight VP. But when VP makes this jump at the end, they're not in a better position. They're actually in a worse position than they were a few minutes earlier, because now OG has the Aegis and they don't have any less life because they have a Troll Warlord with the Vlads. So they can kill Roche without taking significant damage, get an Aegis on their carry, and then turn and fight. So OG is actually a stronger team than before they attack the Roche immediately following Roche's death. And because of this, like it's like the worst possible time that VP could choose to engage. And again, this is like OG is not in a great position even after this fight. There's a slight... This is probably more like a 7,500 now, but there's still a massive lead favoring Virtus Pro during this fight. And when OG takes it, they know that it's more of a this is the best opportunity we're going to get kind of thing, because we just got Roche. We're all still at full health. There's still 5v4. The Rock is probably still on cooldown even if he were alive. So yeah. So the fight goes, and so let's recap what just happened. So Troll just respawned. The Timbersaw's already dead, and the Trent's already dead, but the Trent got off the ulti, and they've killed the OD. And the OD is like a giant money pinata. He is the one that you want to be killing, because even though Ramses is worth more farm, the OD is the one standing in the back doing all of the damage. And OD does a lot of damage based on int. I don't see a lot of int on this Troll, guys. 32 plus 6 with no items that give you a significant amount of intelligence. So I'm going to slow this down to ×1. And Ana is kind of going to get the crap beat out of him here. He gets shallow graved up, runs away. And he dies. I believe the Dazzle does make it out. He probably shouldn't have, though. But so, even with like how like rough that fight went, it was still a pretty okay engagement for OG, because they got the OD and because they denied the Aegis. It's kind of like a GG push if you have an Aegis on the Alchemist or the OD. Especially the Alchemist, because the Alchemist can run in. He's almost impossible to kill to begin with. I'm going to scoot just a bit forward here. There's one engagement that I'm looking for that happens down here. I don't think there's a big engagement following this. I don't think either team knows where the other team is during this until the Ramses reveal here. Ramses gets his bounty. Again, you can kind of see the same pattern of gameplay that VP has always been playing. They're 5-manning up on these towers because they know they can win those 5-on-5 fights, so they don't want to take the risk. And they're also ahead, so you don't want to take risks if you're ahead, because why gamble when you'll win by default if you don't? So they 5-man up, they kill the tower. And then they back off because, again, going on with the theme of everything we've just seen, VP is afraid. They're not really afraid as much as they don't want to throw away a big-ass lead in a $3 million Grand Finals. I know the pot is $3 million. I forget what the Grand Finals are. Probably $1 million. So when they back off, you see, who was it that TP'd out? Didn't someone TP out? Okay, so no one TP'd, I believe, to the Shrine. And then we see this engagement coming in. This is probably the most impressive read of the entire game, when OG goes, they're backing up because they don't want to push further because they're not confident in their ability to high ground us. And we saw someone TP, so we know that they're split. They might have even noticed that it was the OD TPing, so they know that the enemy is split. And so OG is still taking bad fights, but they know they're the best fight that they're gonna get. Like, these fights are still razor tight. So you get the ulti down from the Warlock. Now the Alchemist dies. That's a gigantic kill. All of these BKBs are popped, and right when those BKBs are popped, Jerax goes, nah, and just roots them. And guess who loves rooted enemies? A Troll Warlord that has decent farm. So OD uses his ultimate, doesn't pierce BKB. He doesn't do any damage to the Troll, which is the one that's going to be doing the damage to him. Another thing I want to highlight here is that Jerax, like, this is razor thin. Jerax barely lives, and I would almost attribute that to luck, except The OD knows that the OD is going down, so the OD tries to stall, uses Astral on himself, and then Jirex just says, well, I'll walk away and then I'll be fine. And of course he is. Yeah, immediately dies. This is probably the most important fight of the entire game. After this fight occurs... Okay, I think my pausing and rewinding has left us with a little bug, but... After this fight, it's basically... It's not by any means the death knell of VP, but that fight puts OG not just back in the game, that makes it so they're, like, essentially on equal footing to Virtus Pro. That fight makes it so Virtus Pro now has to go, well, our safe thing was the 5-on-5 fight, but we just lost that. So what are we doing now? And OG is like, well... I think OG actually realizes that the OD doesn't have buyback because OD has been spending his gold. I think his cooldown timer has already... Yeah, his cooldown timer has already gone through. But they know that the OD bought back recently, and they know that they really don't want to buy back on OD. So if they get at least like 1, maybe 2 buybacks, it's a worthwhile trade. But they'd rather have the tower, and they do go for it. And they have the troll that just eats buildings, and he can do it while ranged. Yeah, Ana's not going to do anything but attack this tower. And, you know, they land the stun, but it's like... And they immediately de-ward both of those, but OG is thrilled. OG is the first team to take a Rax in a game where they have been down by 10,000 gold for the majority of it. Or they've been down for the majority of it, and they've been down by roughly 10,000 gold for a long time. And one shrine goes down. And this building died just by like creep equilibrium because it had like 60 or 30 health or something. So now there are shrines but no outer towers, and one shrine, no outer towers, and a missing mid melee Rax on the dire side in a game where Virtus Pros just had a commanding lead the entire game. And the experience now in OG's court. And this 10,000 gold lead is now swung up to a roughly 2,500 lead, almost 20, probably like 2,000 lead for OG. And this is the story of the game. The funny thing is, even with a slight gold lead on OG's side, I still would favor VP based on the draft, because their heroes scale so much better with farm. But OG just outplays the living shit out of them. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit. I'm almost done, guys. So, Gold Graft, 10,000 in favor of OG. They've won a couple of team fights, but they haven't won any... I think those were just pickoffs more so than team fights. But just through the creep equilibrium and the fact that they now have freedom across the map, they farmed up, and now they're winning by a huge freaking margin. This is probably... like, it's not my favorite part, but this is one of my favorite parts of what OG did in terms of just taking all of their heroes and just like scooting all over like the outside of the base. They're just like, well, we can just pick that tower off. That's a very expensive courier. Don't want that to die, VP. But they keep jumping around the outside of their base and just taking chip damage wherever they can. They're like, if we can take damage without... If we can trade cooldowns without trading hero lives for building damage, we're going to do it. OG plays a super slow, like, long, drawn-out, like, rat style. And now OG says, fuck it, but even with the rock ult after the BKB... Also, another thing I wanted to emphasize here that was sort of talked about during the actual cast of the game is that Legion Commander brought a Ghost Scepter so that she could Ghost Scepter herself and then duel someone so that she wouldn't die in the duel, and then they could just use it as like a long lockdown for Troll Warlord, sort of like using a BKB'd Pudge ultimate just to lock someone down. But this is it. This is the end of the game. Like, they got the Aegis on the Troll, but now the Troll's just going to cut through your buildings. You've already lost one hero, and you have lost the ultis on your other 3 that have meaningful ultis. Granted, the Alchemist will have his ulti up pretty quickly, but your big teamfight AoE, like, super scary damage has sort of disappeared. Also, VP is sort of weak to BKBs, and everyone on OG that does that. OG, actually no, I think is it really just the, I guess it is just the troll, but the troll's enough because he's troll. He's the only person there that's really struggling with magic damage. He's the only person that really can't get stunned, can't get slowed, because if he does, he no longer does damage. But yeah, so they get the BKB on the troll, then they just like start winning. It's actually a little more complicated than that because they were so far behind. But these BKB suddenly, this BKB from the troll makes it so Sanity's Eclipse is like no longer this huge scary thing that's always going to kill. Meanwhile, the Timbersaw is also getting huge. Timbersaw just like at one point buys a level 5 Dagon, and now he can do the Ethereal Blade Dagon level 5 combo. Also, the Legion Commander has a Ghost Scepter. So if Legion Commander is Ghost Sceptered up during duel, that's not going to do a lot against, you know, E-Blade and or Dagon. So I'm going to fast forward just a little bit more. This game is just ridiculously out of control in OG's favor now. They have a 10,000 gold lead. I don't even know if they get an Ags on the Treant. Yeah, they don't have an Ags on the Treant, and he's not even building one. He's building a Refresher. Because they're like, the fights are what's going to win this game. It's not going to be the map control. It's just going to be straight up engagements. And VP just starts to get destroyed by the OG lineup, because now he has his he has the BKB, but he also has Scotty, Butterfly, Sanj, and Yasha. He's got the evasion, so you've got to have it. You spend all that money on an MKB on Enchantress, which means she doesn't have an Aghanim Scepter, so that's a lot less damage that you could have. LC, no MKB. OD, no MKB. MKB on the Alchemist, but Alchemist one-on-one against the Troll is not a good scene, man. The Alchemist is going to get bashed up. He doesn't have a basher of his own, so he will get bashed up. The bash pierces spell immunity, I'm pretty sure. I'm like 99% sure of this. Yeah, it bashes through spell immunity just like everything, just like every other bash. Or almost every other bash. And yeah, the Troll just tears through everyone. They don't have an answer for the Troll. The itemization that they've done to combat the Troll's evasion is pretty solid in terms of getting MKBs, but you really want an Aghanim Scepter on that Enchantress. You get Aghanim Scepter, Hurricane Pike spam with the Enchantress, that's a deleted hero. That's a lot of damage. How much damage is that? Okay, so I can't actually see it during this viewer, but so that's pretty much the whole story of the game. I don't know if I need to even continue with this, because this is basically, that's all the interesting stuff that happened. That's all the theory crafting and the parts that I think are meaningful, interesting, really display. Oh, you're right. She got an Ags from the Alch. When did she get the Ags from the Alch? Do you know? How long ago did she get Ags? Okay, so she had it during that fight. Oh well, so never mind. She actually had the Ags for a really long time. Thanks for catching that. Okay, so she actually got Ags before she got MKB. It seems like, oh. It seems like she actually had Ags for a really long time. But if you do that, then you're potentially, like, you're gambling with the buyback of the Alchemist, but he may not have had buyback. So Enchantress did have Ags in addition to the MKB, but pretty sure Arcane Orb is like not that can miss. Like Arcane Orb it's just it's an orb effect. So without an MKB, you can miss against your Troll that's got 35% evasion. Alchemist is kind of scaling off now too. Like he needs to re-itemize if he wants to be super relevant. and he also is probably considering an Aghanims for the OD and an Aghanims for the Warlock, but the Aghanim Scepter for the Warlock, to my knowledge, it's just more damage and more... There's 2 golems that are miniature, but still good. It's more damage to it, but it's not greater stun. And the OD Ags is not going to make that thing go through BKB. So if your ulti is not going through BKB, then 0 times, 1,000 is still 0. Like, he still can't... They're kind of in a weird position now where all of these heroes, this universally better lineup, seems to just be getting hard countered by specific itemization and specific plays by OG. OG played this game miraculously. I did not see them winning this game up until, even after the first victory, I was like, well, they have a chance now, but I really don't see them winning because theoretically VP should be scaling better. But BKB comes out on 1 hero, and holy shit, you're screwed. So I'm going to go ahead and fast forward to the end. By this time, it's pretty much the death now. We're looking at almost a 20,000 gold lead. I think that's about it. So OG just basically walks in. I mean, it's kind of dickish of me not to just show you the end of the game. So OG farm, turn this up to times 16. We will experience some lag even on this beast of a computer. But OG just basically like walks in and kills everyone. Like, this is actually a team fight where VP might have had better execution than OG, but now OG is just so farmed that OG doesn't give a shit. They're like, this game is ours. The Treant's dead, but he got a good ulti off. All of the cores except for Enchantress are dead on... I mean, like, VP repels them, but this game is over. You have 1 barracks left, you have everyone alive on OG, and you have 3 heroes without buyback on VP. And OG Ana just grabs boots, takes his boots travel, which he already had, and then TP's back, and then Timbersaul's alive and just uses, he gets BOT2s and TP's in. He's like, let's just win. Like, there's no reason why we shouldn't. We know they burn buyback. We know we know that they don't have buyback. So let's just go win. So Solo buys the Aghanims, or I think he bought a refresher so that he could use his ultimate a second time, throws down the rock, and it's game. So that's my analysis, and we have a fucking Manor pause coming out. Who paused? No Tail, you dick. So, this was one of the best games I've ever seen, and one of the most historic games that I've ever seen because of the fact that it was the first time that a Valve event went to the Game 5 since TI3, so since Navi Alliance Grand Finals, that was the best. Can S4 make a comeback in the Game 5 of the Grand Finals of a Valve event worth worth $1 million against a CIS team? Again. And he did. So that's my analysis of Game 5 of the Grand Finals. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is eSportsMonies, ESM, Mac, Tim, whatever you want to call me. The VOD of this will be uploaded to YouTube shortly. And peace.